Hey, good morning, everyone, and happy Mother's Day to you on this beautiful, blessed Sunday. I want to send a special happy Mother's Day, of course, to my beautiful wife, Jen, to my mother, Joan, and to my mother-in-law, Nancy. I hope all the moms out there are being, able to find some time to really enjoy themselves this day, and the families are treating them well. This is, of course, a little different than most Mother's Days with this pandemic, but, I'm sure we'll all find a way to make moms feel special today. The weather's pretty nice here. It was a little chilly earlier, but I think it's going to be a nice day. And hopefully you can get out and enjoy that. Of course, taking care of your body, mind, and spirit, and doing it in a safe way so that you can still protect yourselves and your families during this time that we're in. And being Mother's Day, one of the things I wanted to focus on really was my mom and the great leadership example that my mom has been to me throughout my life. And so, first I have to hold up. There's my mom and my dad. There she is, Joan Mack. My mom, for those of you who don't know, she really is a trailblazer and has been a trailblazer for most of her life. My mom was an African-American woman who was a face on television during a time when you didn't see many African-American women, African-Americans period, on television. And so in 1972, my mom was co-host of a local weekly show called Kaleidoscope. She went on from that to actually host her own show called Black Showcase. It was a very popular weekly show that really highlighted the talents of African Americans across the state of South Carolina. The truly trailblazing moment is when my mom in 1981 became, the first African American woman in the South Carolina Lowcountry to be an anchor on a primetime news station. And so, she has set this path forward. And throughout all of that, one of the things my mom has done, and it took me a while to understand this as I grew in my leadership understanding, is those four characteristics that I talked about that I say great leaders have to have. I talked about integrity, I talked about communication, empathy, and courage. My mom displayed all of those throughout her entire career, and she continues to do that now. And so when I look at those things and I look at my mom and the example she set for me, I can see throughout her life how she's been laying the groundwork for myself and my sisters and all those that she influences. Because remember, leadership is influence, and my mom, has been able to influence a lot of people throughout her career. So if I go back and look at these characteristics and I talk about integrity, one of the things my mom understood is being in the position that she was, especially trying to blaze a new trail, that you had to be, up here. You could not have any lapse in integrity because there were so many people that were wanting to take you down. There were many people at that time that did not want her to succeed for many different reasons. And so she understood that she had to be solid in her integrity, that her word had to mean something, that the way she lived her life and the way she carried herself and the way she taught us to carry ourselves, it had to be an example, because she was in that spotlight and she was going down a path that many people hadn't gone down before. So my mom, throughout her life and throughout her career, was able to model for us what integrity really looks like, even in the face of tough circumstances where you could easily say, well, maybe I'll take a shortcut here, or maybe I'll, go over this way. She understood that she couldn't do that. And it was a great testament to us. And again, many of these things you don't realize as you're a kid growing up, but when you reflect back on it, you see the examples that were set. And then, of course, communication. As a co-host, as a reporter, as an anchor person, my mom had to communicate. So, it wasn't like she could not be a communicator. But what she did is she took it beyond being just, hey, I'm a communicator, and so I'm going to do my job and do these things. No, my mom was a voice for those who couldn't speak. She was a voice for so many that looked like her, that needed a voice, that needed someone to speak on the issues that were, impacting them at the time. My mom, one of the things that she did, and I have my notes here, so I want to make sure I don't lose this, is, she found out that 1 in 5 teenage girls in the state of South Carolina would become pregnant before the age of 18. And that concerned her. So what she did is she reported on that problem, and she gave solutions for it. And it was a 5-part award-winning series titled Teen Pregnancy and Epidemic. But that was her using her voice to help those that did not have a voice. And that is the essence of communication. And that is also rolls into the next thing I talked about, which was empathy. My mom understood that there were so many that, did not have the chance that she did. She understood that there were so many who were disadvantaged. There were so many who were in situations that, they needed help, that she, was able to, again, be a voice for them and to be able to walk in their shoes. And she talked about things at times that many people didn't want to talk about. She did another series that talked about the prison overcrowding situation in South Carolina. She was one of the few female reporters that were allowed to go into, the state prison in South Carolina and actually, interview and talk to people and actually go on death row and talk to the inmates there and just kind of, give a voice again to those who didn't have a voice. And again, it was the empathy that she was able to display. My mom has the great ability to be able to put herself in other people's shoes and to understand, the plight that they may be going through, and that touches her, and that leads her to want to do something about it. And she understood that she had a voice, that she could speak for them, and she could raise these issues and bring this awareness. And so, again, modeling empathy for us, and we see this as we're growing up, and those who she influences sees this, again, a sign of a truly great leader. And then you talk about courage. My mom is a truly courageous woman. From even when you look back at the way that she received this opportunity to be on television, because my mom was a biology major. She got her degree, a Bachelor of Science degree in biology. She did not have any formal training when it came to, journalism or any of that. But what happened is, at the time, there were many rules and laws that were put in place to try to, bring more African American people into the news and to give them opportunities. And there was a local group of influential people there in Charleston that saw my mom, and whatever they saw in her, they wanted her to go and apply for this position. So, she went. She said it wasn't necessarily willingly. She was a little hesitant because, again, this is stepping outside of her comfort zone. But she went and she applied for the job. And in a 3-day period, she interviewed, she did some on-screen tests, and the next thing you know, she had the job. And so my mom always believes that God puts us in a certain place at a certain time for a certain purpose. And she knew at that time that this was the path that she was supposed to take, even though it was so different than anything she could have imagined. But that took courage, and the courage to step outside of your comfort zone, and the courage to follow, a calling that has been put on you that you didn't even know was there. And again, my mom has exemplified all these things to me. I want to read something to you. When I talked about her being a trailblazer, my mom was asked about that for an interview that someone was doing. And this is what she said. She said, "We've come a long way in the years since I first stepped into a newsroom. It was always my desire, after accepting the opportunity, to pursue a career in broadcasting with no formal training, to work hard, to be successful, and to leave a viable path for women, especially Black women, to follow. And that's what being a trailblazer is all about." And that is what my mom has exemplified to me throughout, my entire life. When I look at her, and again, I look at these traits that I talked about, there's no greater example for me. There's no greater example in my life that I can look to. So, anything that I do as a leader, anything that I've done, that I will do in the future, it points back to my mom. And so I thought it was a great time on this Mother's Day to really share that with you, and to let you know about this great leader that I've been privileged to know for 51 years of my life, and the great example that she set for me. So, Mom, I thank you. I love you. And you continue to amaze and continue to do these things even to this day. And, for all of you out there, look at your moms. They're probably the examples that you need. You just need to step back and reflect on it a little bit. So God bless. Have a great Mother's Day. I love you. Look forward to chatting with you next week.